this is Straight Up Gay Talk, and I'm Herbie, and I'm here with my friend
Terrell,
and we're here to talk about why men over the age of 50 have such a hard time falling in love. So, Terrell, since you're in that age group, why is it so hard to fall in love being in your 50s?
well, I can sort of only speak for myself and then for certain people that I've seen that's also in my age group. But I think some of it comes probably when you're around your 50s or your 60s, you're probably looking at that, not that final stage of your life, but probably that stage or act three. You know, you kind of maybe lost your parents or at least one parent. You lost maybe some friends. You maybe had that really good love back in your 30s that may have broken up. You had a divorce or you went your other ways. If you have kids, the kids are grown. Maybe you're talking to them, maybe you're not. So when you're bringing someone else in to your life, I think at that age, one, to a certain degree, I feel that you've been there and done that. So to a small degree, you're kind of, I'm not saying you're sour to it.
I'll say stuck in your ways.
But you don't have that puppy love anymore like you are when you're in your 20s, when you're in college and you see that person and your eyes meet. You're just not really that anymore. You've done that, been there and done that. You cheated, they cheated, or you've seen, if you didn't do it, or you probably had a best friend that went through it. So opening yourself up at that age is a little bit more difficult, I think, than when you're in your 20s or maybe in your 30s, because society doesn't necessarily have a template for you. You have that template for you when you're a child. This is what you're supposed to do. When you're a teenager, you go to school. When you're 18, you go to college or you go to the military. When you're 21, you get married, you have a kid, you have the nuclear family. But when you're 50, you've raised the kids, you have the divorce, you did this. And this is straight or gay, but you've had this. And there's really no template for you until you're a little bit older. They'll say, oh, well, you're old, so you sit on the porch or you do this or that. So the love thing, if you're not in a relationship, it seems like it's a little bit more difficult because people say it. You hear it all the time. They break up and they're in their 50s, even their 40s. They're like, you know what? I haven't been on a date since I was 24.
Are they afraid to date?
I don't think they're afraid to date. They just don't know how to date at that age. You're like, well, what in the hell am I going to talk about at 50 with this person?
So why it sounds like the conversation is that they're going out of their age limit. They don't want to date men in their age. Why it seems like it's so hard for them to have a conversation with men their own age?
I think they want to do it. It's just the fact that it's limited, because usually people within that age group, they're either dating someone that's maybe older or they're dating someone that's younger. And that's fine, but it would be usually rare that you would find like a 54-year-old or 55-year-old that's going to date. They usually are looking for someone that's usually younger.
Now, I'm older. I'll say it again. I'm older. I'm 64 years old. And being 64 years old, I found out that men our age are stuck in their ways. That's like I was telling you. I feel like they're stuck. They're set in a time zone. They still playing music back and trying to relive their youth and not caring about themselves the way they used to. They let themselves go. They always want someone now to look a certain way, but they're not putting in the energy or the time to look that way to try to attract someone, or they just saying that's what they want. I think a lot of times gay men start talking about what they used to do, that they talk themselves out of trying to put one foot forward and let themselves go and meet someone their own age and be honest with them. They're not going to be honest. Everybody knows if you're in your 60s, you're going to have high blood pressure problems. Most of us do. Diabetes, most of us do. Then we cannot leave out prostate and prostate cancer, which a lot of us do. So we always talk about sex, but we don't talk about the things that hinder us from having sex. So when you're in your 50s, you're still virile. and trying to get out there. Men in our 60s, we're trying to relax, comfort. At least I am.
Well, I think, yeah, there's truism to that. But also at the same time, I would give people a little bit of grace in the letting themselves go. Because you even see this for like straight people. You sort of say, well, he has the dad bod, or she's allowed herself to get the hips. It's like, well, yeah, that is true to a certain degree, but also at the same time, when you start getting to a certain age, you kind of stop following the dictates of societal's mandates, and you kind of tell society to go to hell. In your 20s, you're like, okay, yeah, I have to look a certain way. I have to be a certain size. I got to do this. I got to have a 32-inch waistline.
They still do that now. They still
Yeah,
talk
they
about
do it to a certain degree.
right now.
But
Right now, you know, get around some of my friends. They say, "Bitch, you're a size 40 now." I remember when you were size 28.
exactly, but I think they say it now. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not listening to what they're saying to me
But
at 20.
but the whole idea, in some kind of way, we always think about we want to get back to the age because someone reminded us that.
Well,
But,
yeah,
you know,
you
when
will
we get
want
reminded
those
of
glory
things,
days. Yeah, those glory days.
and then you
people-
still, you know, what kills me is still seeing some of the older blacks, and they still do it. They talk about they don't, but they still do it. They still talking about that mother thing where they still dress up as real flamboyant, old type of clothing and call themselves looking good. And look good for that time. I like to dress a little modern, a little together. Not necessarily, I do kind of stay in my age range in dressing that I think my age range is. I'm not going to put on nothing too tight, and I'm not going to put on nothing too exposing it like I would have done in my younger days. Now, these young boys, you know, they've got these little skirts that they wear, and I hear in Atlanta, I see all the time on the internet that they wearing those, and to me, that's not masculine, but they're not they're like little kilt thing they step into, my son. But anyway, I'm digressing. I just think a lot of it is we don't want to groom ourselves anymore to get out and do anything. We stuck because we always thought our looks was the door that we always wanted to walk through. If you look good and you walking through the club, that door at the club, you know you look good when you was in your 20s, 30s, 40s, and you walk through that club and you had on the right clothes and you all eyes turning on you. You felt, but there were some eyes turning and looking at you. But now when you go out, you always use the excuse there's nowhere to go. Well, you got to create a place to go. Just because there's no place like it used to be, nothing's going to be like it used to be. Why are you sitting at home and not looking for love? And a lot of that comes because the way that we look at ourselves in the mirror. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, there's some truth to that. But if you look at your old haunts back when you were in your 20s, let's say I went to Rage and Mickey's, but then when I was sort of like hit my mid 30s and 40s, they opened it up to 18 and all. So some people will love that, but like me and my friends, we were like, well, no, no, I'm not going to go down that route. I barely had 18-year-olds when I was 18. Why in the hell do I want an 18-year-old now at 35? And that's fine for people that do, but me and my friends, we were like, well, I just don't really necessarily want that. And then things have just sort of changed to a certain degree. You know, certain songs will come on and you're like, who in the hell is that? You're like, is that Britney Spears? And then people will look at you like you're crazy and say, oh no, Britney is too old. You're like, when the hell did Britney become old? You're like, what in the hell? Thank God I didn't say Madonna. They would have laughed me out of the damn club shit. So to a certain degree, you're almost pushed out if you don't want to become the butt of the jokes in certain places. So living here, and we didn't say this, but we are in from LA County type of thing. So in LA, what I had noticed even in my 20s is that you did have the clubs, but then shut down. It wasn't like New York or Vegas where stuff would go until like 5 a.m. It shut down around about 1, 2 o'clock. And then, you know, you did the house parties. So to me, it seems like when you hit a certain age, that 35 plus, it was all about the house parties. And the house parties just sort of went on as far as they wanted to go. And then you have certain clientele, like we'll go with clientele of people that were there. So I don't know. When I hit my 40s, I kind of stopped going out. And if I got the urge, I just sort of, by that time, you had Craigslist and certain things that you can kind of put out there and bring your victims to you type of thing. Versus in my 20s, you kind of had to go out there and look. So
The whole idea was going out. It was never going to look for a lover, or as we called it back then. Now people call it partners. And I never hear people talk about lovers anymore. I remember when I first was coming out, that's what they called couples, lovers. We were lovers back then, back in the day. Now you're partners. And so I think the words subliminally put in because we always was looking for love, we'd say. But actually we was looking for that one nut that night. And hopefully we could get it and find it when we went to the clubs. I think since most gay men have always let sex rule them, I think the older that one gets, the sex changes. And that stops us from falling in love too. We're not in love because we don't want to let nobody know our health issues, as I was saying earlier. Our health issues is the main thing that stops people from going out and feeling sexy again. We don't want to feel dried up. We always want to be juicy. And one of the things that we feel that's hard is we can't have sex the way we think we want to have sex. And sex has always been the most important thing that's always been in a gay community. It's like we look for sex, we cruise for sex, go to bathhouses for sex.
Speak for yourself.
Well, back in the day, that's what was going on. So when you don't have that urge anymore like you used to, you think that love is not possible, I think. I think people need to start having cuddle buddies.
The side thing, what they call side?
No, cuddle buddies.
But I think that's side.
That's not side.
Well, what is side?
I don't know. I never heard the word.
I think
before.
side. No, I think that's side, like spooning and all that stuff. I think that's what.
That's what they call it. They call it side.
SIDE now. I think it's side.
Oh,
I think
they got a word
people
for it.
who are
I've learned something
listening
new.
to it. If that's, I see side, SIDE.
Well, I'm calling it cuddle buddies.
So it's side.
I'm calling it.
I'm
cuddle
almost
buddies.
certain it's side.
I'm trying to find somebody to understand that we still need affection and still can have some type of connection with one another and not give up on love. All the things that you said, all the things that I've been saying, is that we seem like we just give up on love. Feel like we're never going to find it, that it happened at a time and we can't have it again. And this is why I, start wanting to talk about this, because there's so much that you can still do with a couple and start having companionships.
Well, see, I see what you're saying with how the sex changes, but let's say like I'm a total bottom, so technically, I mean my sex drive.
Okay.
I mean, I've had a sex drive. I've always had a sex drive, but I've never had a crazy sex drive.
Now, Terrell.
But
now, Terrell.
No. I don't get me wrong.
Okay, there we go. We'll straighten it up now. Don't start lying to the public right now.
I have some victims.
Okay, there we go.
I have some victims. If I was a vampire, yes, I would have turned a lot of people into vampires by now. But I'm just saying, because even now with my sex drive and being like a bottom, I can still do it because I'm a bottom. I can see if I was a top or versatile, then maybe the front part of that tool, what y'all call it? The penis? Is that it? That, I can say, okay, maybe that doesn't work like it did when I was 25, but I'm a bottom. And unless it's worn out, which mine isn't, I can still bottom whenever I wanted to. It's just,
but I got a question.
Would
you be with a man that loves you and you can and be your side, and every now and then use a toy?
Well, I didn't use toys back when I was in my 20s.
But that was then. That was then.
Toy. What was a toy for?
That's then. Because things stop working if you get with someone in your 50s and you happen to be in love with someone and the sex has changed.
So his thing don't work and he gets a toy and put it in me?
And cuddle and huddle and kiss and do all the things.
No. Why am I going to do that?
For love. And
well,
and relationships. That's a way to keep the relationship in a sexual way. It has changed. But why are you so adamant to say no when you still have the kissing, the hugging, the affection that goes into sex and to making love at a certain age, and you still getting satisfied, and that person in some kind of way feels satisfied because he's satisfying you?
Because I don't want petroleum. I don't want plastic in me. I want the meat in me.
Well, you can't get the meat in you. So you rather do without?
Okay, let me preface. If I'm dating a person.
No, we in a relationship. We're not in a dating. We in a relationship. No, it's not a dating. You've been with this person for about, say, 15 years. And then all of a sudden things don't work the way it used to be. And you still want what you want. But they can't deliver on what you want. So what are you going to do? Now, you're not dating. You've been there with this person. And they still with you, and you're still with them.
Oh, dear God. So I'm in love. So I'm in love.
Yes.
So I'm just singing Jessica Simpson. I think I'm in love. I think I'm in love.
Okay. you're not saying thinking, you are. Anybody being over really 5 years together, you loving the person. I don't care what nobody says. It's just like like another story we're gonna bring up about.
So this is better or worse type of thing.
It's not no better or worse. Yes, it is.
Okay. Then maybe allowances would be made, because like I said, I wouldn't want to break up with him, and then that would be a natural progression, because I say he's in my age group also. And it stops working. So I'm not going to say, oh, your shit isn't working anymore. I'm not going to say that to anyone. You're not a man anymore. That's like I wouldn't say it to a woman if she had her breast removed. Oh, you're not a woman anymore. She can't have children. I wouldn't say that.
Why would you say that? I keep saying, why would you say that?
No, I never would go down that route.
Why would you put that out
to say that to anyone. And I definitely wouldn't say it to someone who I cared about and especially loved. Definitely would not do that. So, okay, yes, I get that. For that reason, I would probably have to go to the pleasure chest or something like that. And, oh, dear God. I guess, because like I said, I wouldn't want the individual to feel bad.
This is what I keep talking about. We leave out the idea there are other things to have and other ways to still feel sexy and have sex. There's still certain things to do, even for a man who is impotent.
So you're saying his thing don't work at all? My man's thing don't work at all. He can't even get a blowjob anymore.
It's not going to be hard enough to go in your ass.
Because I can go just the oral. If we can do the oral thing,
sometimes it don't get completely flated. Sometimes they do, and sometimes it takes forever for them to have an orgasm because it keeps going up and down, up and down, up and down, up
now,
and down.
To the point where they get limit. If they
you up shit creepy. You up shit creepy. Because that's the problem with most men our age is the idea that it doesn't stay inflated. Now, some people are always going to say, oh, yes, it is. And then there's always that little blue pill. And then there's always somebody saying we do this and do that. And yeah, okay. But anyway, just the average person who's not looking into trying to keep an erection because of medicines and other stuff that's happens in our later age, the sex is longer. Meaning sometimes it takes forever for the penis to get hard. Sometimes it takes forever to accomplish an orgasm when there was a time you could have sex in an hour and had two of them or popped out three of them at that time. When you were in your 20s and 30s, you could have got three in an hour.
Because see, with me, speaking for just myself, one of the things that I have done, I rarely dated someone that was in my age group. I've always usually dated older men.
So this is why I'm saying this now. Even if you date someone older, they're going to be in their 60s, and these are the problems they're going to have.
And
So
one guy he did have issues. He did have to take the blue pill and did some type of injection. I was like, what the hell is that?
It's so many things. We're going to get into that subject about things that keeping your penis hard later. In this.
So moving in my 20s and 30s, I saw it. Now, we weren't like in love or anything. It was just someone who I was just having every once in a while, and if it worked, it worked, and if it didn't, it didn't. And so I would
see those are the things that's the things that we used to have. Those are the things that always would have those kind of affairs. But anyway, going forward.
But yeah, so I did date men that were older that sometimes did have those challenges as an older man. Fast forwarding, they were probably in their 50s and their 60s. One being your best friend. I had him for a few times.
Why you bring his ass up?
But
anyway.
I don't think he took anything to the best of my knowledge. I mean, maybe he prepared before I came over. I have no idea. But usually I had noticed that those guys that I was having that were older, they wanted younger. So part of the aphrodisiac was the fact that they was getting someone that was in their 20s at the time. And that helped with the stiffness.
But we
weren't really doing what you're talking about.
But I'm talking about being in a relationship, not just dating someone. I'm talking about someone you're in love with, someone you're building a life with, and you still want to be there for them. That you have to try certain things to keep a relationship going. And as you fall in love with someone or like someone or start dating someone our age, those are challenges that you have to understand. And a lot of men pull back because they don't want to actually feel like they're embarrassed or feel like they can't perform in any kind of way. They have to really be themselves. So I think a lot of times people have a problem looking at the man in the mirror to fall in love with someone else around our age and enjoy them fully as much as you can enjoy them. That means you have to be flexible, not necessarily in body wise. You can't do that no more when you're at a certain age. Once you get 50, you can't put your head on your foot on your head and all that kind of shit like you used to do. But those days are gone. I don't care how much of a bottom and flexible you were in your teens.
That's a whole nother subject matter. You need to move on from that. And you're looking right at me while you're saying all this. I don't understand why.
But those days are gone. So you have to understand that if you want great companionship, you have to learn to come up with new and exciting ways to be with someone.
I mean, yeah, I do agree with that. Because let's say if everything just still works perfectly and you're in a loving relationship, I mean, yeah, you're going to have to smooth things up in the bedroom. Because, a blowjob is a blowjob. You're going to have to, you're going to have to get some type of other technique, So I get you're going to have to
you got to learn to do mother. You got to learn to play with the balls, lick the balls, suck the balls as you're doing a blowjob. You can't always.
So you can't keep the same technique.
You can't do that all. You got to change up.
So when things aren't really working like they used to, then yeah, techniques will need to change.
So if you were, say, just met someone and they're 55 like you are, and y'all been talking on the phone, meeting online, then y'all decide to go out to dinner one night. Then you start liking their company. All of a sudden, they don't tell you, but then you start kissing goodnight. And then both of y'all have your own home. So y'all came in separate cars. So do y'all leave and say, come over to my place? Or you said, come over to my place. And then what are you expecting at that time? Are you expecting sex when you know in your mind that you can't perform like you used to? And they might have the same thing. Are y'all afraid, or have y'all discussed it before y'all got together? What should you do? Should you discuss it before you get together? Or should it have been discussed, like at the first meeting, and then you go in your separate ways and I go on my separate? Which is the best solution?
Well, some things that you need to bring up, because I'll even be a little bit forthcoming. Like right now, I have on a catheter due to some situations. So I would need to, obviously if I got on a catheter, and I'm still a bottom, like I said, there's no reason for him to touch the front part, I would still need to bring that forward and be upfront with that if that was going on like right now at this time in my life. So I mean, yeah, I would still be able to give oral. I would still be able to bottom if I wanted to bottom. I mean, I guess.
And then nothing happened in the back part of you now. So that should be. But I do want to discuss this as a different, another subject about health, since you brought that up, because that's one of the things that we always keep talking about, and I keep bringing it up again. I keep saying one of the things, but it is the main thing. I think that why men our age don't fall in love or have a companion is because we're not honest about our health problem, and we don't come up front with it. Now it seems like it's almost like taboo, just like being transgender. They don't want to bring it up, right? They're always looking for the right moment to tell the person that that they have a dick, and so it's in that same vein. And I think men need to start feeling comfortable about that.
True, but also at the same time, we were raised, or you saw it, that, and this is, I think, across different genders and different races and ethnicities, that to admit to something like that to a certain degree is admitting to a certain weakness. And we're at that cusp as we're not, Charles Ingalls on Little House on the Prairie type of raised, but we still have that type of, that mentality sort of put into us that that is what is going on.
Well, this is the end of part 1 of why you can't fall in love or not fall in love, or why can't you fall in love over the age of 50.
I always go back to Jane Child's song, I Don't Want to Fall in Love. I sang the remix and club mix to that, and it's been working perfectly for me for these years. So until then, we'll be back. This is Terrell signing off.
And this is Herbie.
All right, have a good day.
Bye.